You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am the Jacob Valk, and you're not. I've got to start with the Baltimore Orioles finally snapping their 19-game losing streak. Even though the Yankees and Orioles are division rivals, I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't happy for the Orioles to snap this epic losing streak. Just to give you a sense of how bad it was, they lost 2 out of 3 from the Yankees. They got swept by the Rays. They got swept by the Tigers. They got swept by the Red Sox. They got swept by the Rays again. They got swept by the Braves. And they lost their first game to the Angels. From August 3rd to August 24th, they didn't win a single game. That's 3 weeks. For 3 weeks, they went winless. Do you have any idea how hard that is to do? There are a lot of bad teams in baseball. The Rangers, the Diamondbacks, the Pirates. None of them have a losing streak anywhere close to the 19-game losing streak that the Orioles just snapped. That losing streak is actually tied for the 12th longest losing streak in Major League Baseball history. The longest losing streak stands at 26 games, and it was set by the 1889 Louisville Cardinals. If I'm excluding the 19th century, then the longest losing streak in MLB history belongs to the 1961 Phillies. That stands at 23 games. So at least the Orioles didn't set the all-time record. But the Orioles actually did have the longest losing streak in Major League Baseball history since 2005, when the Royals lost 19 straight. At some point, if you're Peter Angelos, the owner of the Orioles, or John Angelos, who's the CEO of the team, you've got to say, enough is enough. What we're doing isn't working. We've got to hit the fast forward button. I understand that you've been going with a youth movement for a while now. And it's not like the Orioles were expected to do anything this year. But the reality is, it doesn't matter whether you were picked to make the playoffs or not. you should still be respectable. The Baltimore Orioles in no way, shape, or form are respectable. It's August 26th, and the Orioles don't have 40 wins. If you doubled the number of wins that the Orioles have, they'd still have less wins than the San Francisco Giants. You take a look at that roster, how many of those guys are legitimate major leaguers? How many of those are guys that you can say, you know what, they'd have a role on a playoff team? Count with me. Trey Mancini, Cedric Mullins, Anthony Santander, Ryan Mountcastle, John Means, and Tanner Scott. That's probably it. That's 6 guys. Out of the 26 guys on the Orioles' active roster, they only have 6 players that you can reasonably say could contribute for a playoff team. It's clear that their youth movement isn't working. They started the youth movement in 2017. 5 seasons ago. You'd think you'd see some level of progress. This Orioles team will be lucky to get 45 wins. There used to be an old adage in baseball, no matter how bad your team is, you could usually count on them to get 60 wins. You're still putting out major leaguers. They should be expected to win 60 games. There's no chance that the Orioles win 60. 50 seems like a reach. I'm telling you, they're going to be lucky to win 45. At some point, when do you say, enough is enough, we need to change things? You take a look at the prospects that the Orioles have coming up, it doesn't get much better. They only have 2 in the top 75, according to MLB.com. Now, granted, their top prospects, according to MLB.com, Adley Rutschman is the best prospect in all of baseball. And I like Rutschman. I think he's going to be a fantastic player in this league. He has the potential to be the best catcher in baseball. And Grayson Rodriguez, according to MLB.com, is the best pitching prospect in all of baseball. Of all prospects, he's the 8th best one. So yes, they're superstar prospects, but only 2 in the top 75? That's not going to get the job done. I mean, here's how bad the Orioles really are. Last year, in the 60-game joke, you saw surprise teams make the playoffs. No one expected the Blue Jays to make the playoffs. They were there. No one expected the Marlins to make the playoffs. They were there. Few people expected the Cubs to make the playoffs. They were there. No one expected the Reds to make the playoffs. They were there. The Orioles didn't even sniff the playoffs. They were 25-35. If you can't even sniff the playoffs in a 60-game season, when do you say enough is enough, we've got to change things? We've got to hit the fast forward button. We've got to be aggressive. We've got to sign some free agents. Maybe make some trades. We're sick and tired of being the laughingstock of baseball. We actually want to try and inch back towards respectability. I mean, I've heard some people criticize Brandon Hyde, and I understand the point. At the end of the day, the best managers get their teams to go the extra mile, to hit that extra gear. There's no way that the Orioles have done that this year. If you want to criticize Hyde, go for it. The thing is, though, look at that roster. Earl Weaver wouldn't be able to do anything with it. I'll grant you that Hyde isn't exactly helping matters. That may be unfair to say to some people, but come on. This team just lost 19 straight games. Some of that does fall on the manager. Not all of it. Definitely not all of it. But certainly some of it. Look, the Orioles need to shift their philosophy. They really shot themselves in the foot a while back by not trading Manny Machado when it was clear that he wasn't going to re-sign. You could see the writing on the wall that the Orioles were going to go with the youth movement. They weren't going to pay Machado. He didn't want to sit through a youth movement. It was clear that the two sides were headed for a breakup. That's okay. But for the love of mercy, don't wait until 2 weeks before the trade deadline to trade him. Trade him before the season starts. Trade him even before that point. The youth movement started in 2017. You could have traded Machado at that trade deadline and gotten a king's ransom. Instead, you get a subpar package of prospects. Yusniel Diaz, the crown jewel of that trade, hasn't played in a single major league game. Same thing with Rylan Bannon. Dean Kremer hasn't put it all together. Zach Pop is a Marlin. Breivik Valer is a Blue Jay. If the only guy that you have to show for Manny Machado is Dean Kremer, someone who's 0-7 with a 7.25 ERA and is currently in the minor leagues, you're doing something wrong as an organization. I understand that that's not on Mike Elias. Elias came after that. But what exactly has Elias done to fix the problem? He gave away Mike Yastrzemski for Tyler Herb. Who the hell is Tyler Herb? He's not even with the Orioles anymore. He's a Mariner. He's pitching for their Double-A team. Not for nothing, but he didn't pick Grayson Rodriguez. That was Dan Duquette. Hallelujah. He picked Adley Rutschman. That wasn't exactly an exotic pick. When he had a big pick last year, he took Heston Kierstad. There were better players available. You want to give Elias and Hyde a chance to right the ship, I can sorta kinda accept that. I mean, realize, Elias has only been with the Orioles since November 16th, 2018. So he's really only had 2 full seasons to put his vision together. But you've got to get in his ear and say, you know what, hit the fast forward button. Okay, you don't need to go crazy in terms of trading prospects, but some of them, not all of them are going to hit. That's the nature of the beast. Give him a chance to hit the fast forward button. Let's see what Hyde can do as manager. I have no problem with that. I'm skeptical of it. But I think it's unfair to move on from those guys now. The Angeloses really need to get in Mike Elias's ear and say, we want to be a respectable baseball team again. This 19-game losing streak is unacceptable. We want you to add talent so that never happens again. If Elias says, no, I want to stick to my vision, then fire him. But I would give him a chance to right the ship. It's unfair to move on from him without giving him that chance. Moving on now to an interesting statement from Carlos Correa. When talking to Andy McCullough of The Athletic, Correa said, my last year with the Astros, hopefully we can win another championship. I can leave this great organization with 2 of them. Firstly, the Astros are not a great organization. I absolutely hate the Astros. I have no respect for them. And I look forward to beating them in the playoffs. But that's not what we should focus on. We should focus on Correa basically saying that he's going to leave the Astros. And I understand why. The Astros lowballed him all throughout spring training. The best offers that he received was a 6-year extension worth $120 million and a 5-year extension worth $125 million. To put that into perspective, Francisco Lindor, who was set to hit free agency after this coming season, and the Mets probably wish that he was still hitting free agency, signed a 10-year extension worth $341 million. So you're not even putting Correa in the same universe as a guy like Lindor. Even a guy like Fernando Tatis Jr. signed a 14-year extension worth $340 million. In the case of Tatis, the AAV is similar, but the total value isn't. And certainly for Lindor, the total value and the AAV is in a different stratosphere. I mean, for the Astros to lowball one of their homegrown guys like that, someone who won Rookie of the Year, a 2-time All-Star, a World Series winner, a really good playoff performer, that's just a classless move by a classless organization. Maybe the Astros thought that they'd have a chance to re-sign him once free agency hit. But it doesn't seem like Correa is going to give them that chance. I mean, I'll say this. I'm not sure what teams could give Correa a big contract. The Dodgers wouldn't. They just traded for Trey Turner. Yes, Corey Seager is going to be a free agent, but I don't see the Dodgers going after another shortstop. The Mets wouldn't do it. They have their shortstop in Lindor. The Padres wouldn't do it. They have their shortstop in Tatis. The Cubs wouldn't do it. They're going with a youth movement. Correa doesn't fit that. I don't think he'd want to sign there. The Cardinals make sense. Paul DeJong has not had a good season. I mean, think about this infield from first to third. Paul Goldschmidt, Tommy Edman, Carlos Correa, and Nolan Arenado. That sounds pretty darn good to me. Another team that wears red is a possibility. No, not the Red Sox. They have Xander Bogaerts. How about the Angels? I like Jose Iglesias, but he's a free agent at the end of this year, and Correa is a million times better than Iglesias. Correa is hitting .276 with 19 home runs and 68 RBIs. If Correa really wants to stick it to the Astros, if he feels disrespected by them, yeah, sign with the Angels. That would make sense. The Phillies would also make sense. Didi Gregorius has not had a good season. The Braves don't make sense. They have Dansby Swanson. The White Sox don't make sense. They have Tim Anderson. I don't see the Mariners happening. There actually is another team that would make sense. And you'll notice that I haven't mentioned them as a possibility in giving out a big contract, which runs counter to their MO. Yeah, I'm going there. Is it really out of the realm of possibility that the Yankees would sign Carlos Correa? I understand what you're thinking. That Yankees fans screamed F Correa when the Astros came into the Bronx. And make no mistake about it. If the Yankees play the Astros in the playoffs, he's going to hear those same chants. But the Yankees have shown a willingness in the past to sign players from their rivals. Johnny Damon won a World Series here. Kevin Youkilis was a Yankee. I'll even go further back. Roger Clemens. Doc Gooden. Look, there would be a big subset of the fan base that would hate bringing in Correa. And they'd have every right to criticize it. This guy stole a pennant from us. He stole a World Series from us. What are we doing giving him a big contract? We hate Correa. Now we have to root for him. The thing is, though, think about who the starting shortstop is for the Yankees in 2022. It's Gleyber Torres. Now, I like Torres, I really do, but if you want to tell me that you want to move on from him, if you don't think he's ever going to hit 30 home runs again, sure. Sign Correa. I mean, there are a lot of Yankees fans that are willing to move on from Torres. They don't think he's part of the future. And all due respect to the Squid, Andrew Velasquez, I don't think the Yankees view him as their starting shortstop going forward. I think they view him as a utility player going forward. So if you're willing to move on from Torres, and I'm not 100% sure that I am, but if Brian Cashman is, if the new GM is, assuming there is a new GM, sure, replace him with Correa. It would actually make a little bit of sense. I understand that sports talk in this town would break if Correa signed with the Yankees, but I actually think it's sorta kinda possible. I'm not advocating for it yet. All I'm saying is it's conceivable that it could happen. Alright, now I'll give you some NFL Vault Talk. And I'll start with the Panthers trading Denzel Perryman and a 7th rounder to the Raiders in exchange for a 6th rounder. And this is kind of interesting. The Panthers just signed Perryman this offseason. They signed him to a 2-year deal worth $6 million. So they're trading him before he ever plays a game for them. I'd understand it if it was like a 1-year deal or something. But a 2-year deal? That's tough. Like, if I was a veteran free agent, I'd be weary about signing with the Panthers now. How do I know I'm not going to be traded before I even get a chance to show what I can do for you? I'll say this, though. I don't think this is going to hurt the Panthers too much on the field. Maybe off the field, their reputation will take a little bit of a hit. But Jermaine Carter had a good year last year. He had a 66.5 overall grade, according to Pro Football Focus. So if he's won the competition at starting middle linebacker, that's fine. I just have an issue with trading Perryman before he ever plays a game for you after you signed him to a 2-year deal in free agency. I mean, Perryman's a good player. Last year for the Chargers, he had an 83.3 overall grade. He's just a good player. And I'll say this, the Raiders know him. They face the Chargers twice a year. Adding linebacker depth makes a ton of sense for the Raiders. They didn't have an urgent need for it, but you can never have too much depth. Football's a violent game. Injuries happen all the time. The Raiders easily won this trade. Moving on now to a report from someone whose name I am going to butcher. I apologize in advance. It's from Jeff Zarebiec of The Athletic. He covers the Ravens for The Athletic. He said that the Ravens are receiving calls on Shaun Wade and Jake Verity. I just don't understand what's with these teams and moving on from players so quickly. The Ravens literally just drafted Shaun Wade. He was a 5th round pick for him. Now you're going to trade him before he ever gets into a regular season game. You're going to trade your 5th round pick before he ever plays a meaningful down for you. In the preseason, Wade has looked good. He's actually the best corner that the Ravens have, according to Pro Football Focus. A 76 overall grade. I understand that he's not as good as Marcus Peters, Marlon Humphrey, and Jimmy Smith. I get all that. Tavon Young, too. But the point is, Wade has shown that he can play. You want to tell me that the Ravens have a cluttered depth chart at corner? That's all well and good. But then don't take Wade in the first place. I'll actually tell you something kind of funny. In my Madden franchise, the Ravens cut Jimmy Smith. Is that really out of the realm of possibility? Yes, Smith can still play, but realize, he's on the older side. He's 33. I didn't think it was too inconceivable when I first saw it. My first reaction was, wow, I'm definitely going to sign this guy, and I did. But then as I thought about it, it's like, okay, you know what, this has some basis in reality. I could see this happening. For the Ravens to move on from Wade would be ludicrous. The Jets should be all over it. Okay, you don't want to go out and sign any veteran free agents. Then you know what? Bring in young guns with potential. Shaun Wade at one point was a very highly thought of prospect. He just got torched in the national title game. He did not have a good pro day. But I'd still give him a chance. 6th round pick? Sure. I'll take Wade. Bring in all the young corners you can to the Jets. I have no problem with that at all, if you're not going to sign any veterans. As for Verity, it's okay if you don't know who he is. He was an undrafted free agent out of East Carolina. You may be asking yourself what position he plays. He's a kicker. Not a particularly good one. He missed a third of his field goal tries last year. Although I'll say this. In the 2 preseason games for the Ravens, he hasn't missed a single kick. 3 for 3 on field goal tries, including a 53-yarder. 2 for 2 on extra point tries. The Ravens already have Justin Tucker. They're not going to cut Tucker for Verity. I mean, we've seen teams do this. Trade for kickers who have a good preseason. The Panthers just did it. They traded a conditional 7th rounder to the Giants for Ryan Santoso. The pick will only be conveyed if Santoso completes 2 games on the Panthers roster. It's kind of interesting. He got traded on his birthday. Happy birthday. Here's a chance to be an NFL kicker. So look, there are teams that always think they can improve their kicking situation. So it wouldn't surprise me if a team traded for Verity. Is it a guarantee that it's going to work? Absolutely not. Kari Vedvik was a very highly sought-after kicker. in the 2019 preseason. The Ravens traded him to the Vikings. He didn't even make it onto their 53-man roster to start the season. The Jets brought him in. He's the seminal reason that they lost the home opener in 2019. But it's worth a shot. You want to give up a 7th rounder for Verity? I'm okay with that. If you're unsettled about your kicking position. I have no problem with that at all. And just to put a finer point on the Santoso trade, I don't understand why the Panthers would choose him over Verity. In the 2 preseason games this year for the Giants, Santoso has attempted 2 extra points. He's hit both of them, congratulations, but he's not better than Verity. I mean, you can do better than Joey Sly. If you're the Panthers, I get that. Sly doesn't have the strongest leg in the world. I'm just not convinced that Santoso is going to make it as a kicker in this league. Ultimately, time will tell. Alright, now I'll give you some NHL Vault Talk. And it'll be on the Hurricanes and Flyers signing Andrei Svechnikov and Sean Couturier, respectively, to 8-year deals worth $62 million. That's $7.75 million a year. The only difference is that for Svechnikov, that contract kicks in right now. He was a restricted free agent. Couturier was signed through this coming season. So this deal will kick in the 22-23 season. The reality is these are great moves for both teams. Svechnikov is a cornerstone of the Hurricanes. Even though he's only 21 years old, he's barely old enough to drink, you can still call him a cornerstone of a pretty darn good Hurricanes team. The Hurricanes won't be as good in net as they were last year because they replaced Alex Nedeljkovic with Frederik Andersen, but I think they'll still be solid. I think they will make the playoffs. You've got to keep Svechnikov around. Last year he had 42 points in 55 games, had 8 points in 11 playoff games, underrated defensively, just a great player, a great young player. One of the best young players in the game. The Hurricanes had to lock him up long term. They did it at a reasonable rate. Good job by Don Waddle. As for Couturier, the first thing I thought of when I saw this is, how old is Couturier? Because it feels like he's been in the NHL forever. And he has been. This coming season will be his 11th year in the NHL. The thing is, though, he came up when he was 19. He's 28 right now. So the Flyers signed him through his age 37 season. In a perfect world, is that what you'd do? Probably not. But that does show loyalty to a guy who spent his whole career with the Flyers. One of the best two-way forwards in the NHL. Not this past season, but the season before, he won the Selke Trophy. In this past season, he put up 41 points in 45 games. Sure, as he gets older, he may fall off a little bit. But you cross that bridge when you get there. And you know what? His defensive play won't fall off too much. That really doesn't go away with age. That's an IQ thing. You get smarter as time goes on, not dumber. It's kind of funny. It wasn't that long ago we were talking about Sean Couturier as a bust. Entering the 17-18 season, he never had a season where he scored more than 15 goals and 39 points. Great defensively, just couldn't put it together offensively. Then 17-18 happened. He put up 76 points. His offensive game just clicked. As much as it kills me to say it, this is a great move by the Flyers. Until tomorrow, I'm Jacob Valk, and always remember, if you disagree with me, you're wrong.